Well, hello, people. So glad to have you all here and to be celebrating this year's commencement of the Department of Cinema Studies and Moving Image Arts. We have a program prepared with some surprises, including a very special guest that I'll be introducing shortly. Um, First of all, dear parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends and relatives, I would like to give you all the warmest, sincerest welcome to the Fall, Spring, and Summer 2021 recognition ceremony of the University of Colorado's Department of Cinema Studies and Moving Image Arts. My name is Ernesto Acevedo Munoz, and I am the faculty director of this academic unit and chair of this department. I know that many of you are joining us remotely from all over our beautiful state of Colorado and from far away exotic places like California, New York, Texas, and Broomfield. We are here today to honor with our presence the numerous and significant achievements of this extraordinary group of people. On behalf of the faculty and the staff, I welcome you and thank you for making this day extra special in the lives of these soon to be former students, the 2020 and 2021 graduating class of the University of Colorado's Department of Cinema Studies and Moving Image Arts. I usually have a speech designed for chuckles, but this year I feel more inclined just to be brief, to be thankful, and to be hopeful. It has been a very trying year with difficulties and anxieties that none of us could have ever imagined. And yet here we are, joyfully celebrating your accomplishments. I am thankful to this extraordinary faculty. You have all made enormous sacrifices, exhibited intuition, intelligence, patience, and especially enormous dedication to our students and our academic mission during these very difficult 3 semesters. These students are grateful too because they have seen you all go above and beyond the call of duty to see to their success. I am thankful to the staff and the advising team. The focus and strength you have shown, the hard work you've put into seeing that our operations saw minimal disruptions, and the advocacy you have put forth on behalf of our students has been nothing short of exemplary. I am thankful to the parents, the grandparents, the families and friends of students, faculty, and staff alike. You have made you have all made sacrifices, gone the extra mile, and offered enormous support so that we can see these students here today receiving their university degrees and ready for their next contribution to our society. And I am particularly thankful to you, the students. You have demonstrated tremendous patience, resilience, instinct, stick to itiveness, and enormous grace. You have helped each other out with your projects, supported each other in real and virtual ways. You have been kind and understanding with the rest of us when we too were struggling. What you have all accomplished these last 3 semesters has been heroic and an example to everyone in this here virtual room and beyond. And this is why we are joyfully celebrating your accomplishments here today. The future is here. We can now finally say that the end of these troubled times is in sight. But we have also seen this year real evidence of how important what we do is to the world. Movies, serial television, visual entertainment, critical and creative thinking have kept most of us together this last year. Many people have emotional support pets. I am the first to admit that I instead have emotional support movies. The world has turned to what we do for emotional support this year. And now I am very happy and very proud to be the first to congratulate you and see you off into a world that we can, we will, we must make better, more beautiful, more just, and more equitable. The year of the pandemic is also the year of kindness and truthfulness to one another. You have shown us all of that. What a great opportunity you all have. Congratulations, graduating class of 2020 and 2021. And thank you again all for being here and for your support. I'm going to proceed to introduce the members of the faculty who are joining us here today. Unfortunately, everyone was not able to join us, but we are making a good show anyway. Erin Espily is a filmmaker, writer, and editor living and working in Boulder County's 4 Mile Canyon and in New York City. Her writing and filmmaking investigates current scientific research related to the Anthropocene, issues in environmental history, questions of epistemology, and our expectations of the moving image. Espely's films have shown at the New York Film Festival, the British Film Institute, the Natural History Museum in London, Whitechapel Gallery, Crossroads in San Francisco, the Rotterdam International Film Festival, the Edinburgh International Film Festival, the Full Frame Documentary Festival, and many, many more. Her feature-length experimental documentary, The Lanthanide series, examines the materiality of the digital world, combining approaches of nonfiction, narrative essay, abstract visual and sound exploration, and the history of black mirrors, and has been shown around the world in many of the most prestigious venues. Professor Espily, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Professor Jeannie Liotta is Associate Director of the Graduate Program here at CU Boulder, directing our MFA efforts. Her films and moving image installations are often located at a lively intersection of art, science, and natural philosophy. Observando el Cielo, her signature 16mm film of the night skies, won numerous prizes, including the prestigious Tiger Award at the Rotterdam International Film Festival, and was voted among the top 10 films of the decade by the Film Society of Lincoln Center. Show venues include the Whitney Museum of Art, the Museum of Modern Art, the New York Film Festival, the Centre Georges Pompidou, the Wexner Center for the Arts, the Menil Collection in Houston, the Cinémathèque Française, and the Museum of Contemporary Art in Denver, among many, many others. Her work is in the collections of the Museum of Modern Art, the Vienna Film Museum, Harvard, and Duke Universities. She is represented by the Microscope Gallery in New York. Thank you, Professor Liotta. Lovely to see you again. Jeff Marslett is a Texan and an award-winning American film animator, writer, director, producer, and actor. His work has screened at over 100 different film and animation festivals, including Sundance, the BFI in London, South by Southwest, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, Sitges Fantastic Fest, Seattle International Film Festival, Leeds Film Festival, Guanajuato International Film Festival, Nashville International Film Festival, Vancouver, Heartland Film Festival, and many, many, many other venues in all over the nation and all over the world, including the Cyprus International Film Festival, the Dallas Video Film Fest, the Austin Film Society, and the Madrid Film Festival, and the Black Mariah. His work has been distributed through Netflix, Sony Crackle, HBO, PBS, the Sundance Channel, and Amazon Prime. His most recent short film, The Phantom 52, stars Tom Skerritt and was shown in dozens of festivals and prestige venues. And his new feature film, The Boarding House Reach, is soon to be premiered, if I remember right, Jeff. So everybody keep your eyes open and welcome our friend Jeff Marslett. Thank you, Professor. Sabrina Negri is a film scholar, archivist, and preservationist. Her current work focuses on the digital preservation of analog moving images and the evidentiary value of film materials. Her broader research interests include the history of Italian colonial cinema and issues of epistemology in detective fiction. Professor Negri is a graduate of the Selznick School of Film Preservation at George Eastman House, the University of Chicago, and the University of Turin. In 2009, she was awarded the Hagefilm Foundation Fellowship to preserve the only existing copy of a two-color Kodachrome screen test from 1922, and Professor Negri is spearheading our efforts toward a preservation and archiving program. Christopher Osborne alternates between being a freelance commercial editor and teaching cinema. After graduating from Emerson College, he started his career in New York City as an apprentice editor on a flatbed with film and a splicer, and moonlighted on the weekends using the newfangled and highly unstable Avid editing system at the time. He's also a documentary filmmaker with Sundance shows included among his many venues, and he's also one of our stable faculty members and great friend to our students and mentor to our students. Thank you, Christopher. Good to see you again. Kelly Sears is an experimental animator that reframes American archetypes and institutions to reimagine our own social and political legacy through combining animated photographic and cinematic documents with speculative storytelling. Each of her films contains recognizable cultural narratives that take fictional twists as history merges with the uncanny. Her award-winning films have screened at Sundance, Slamdance, South by Southwest, the American Film Institute, Los Angeles Film Festival, the Museum of Modern Art, the Hammer Museum, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Houston, and Union Docs, among many, many other venues. She has had solo programs of her work at the Pacific Film Archives, Anthology Film Archives, the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, the Portland Art Museum, and the San Francisco Cinematheque. She has been awarded residencies by the MacDowell Colony, Yaddo, Gerasi, and the core program at the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. She's our associate faculty chair of undergraduate studio arts and a great mentor and friend to our students as well. Professor Sears, good to see you again. Emily Upsack is an independent filmmaker from Boulder. She holds an MFA in film from Vermont College of Fine Arts is a Rotterdam Producers Lab alumna and an Andy Warhol Foundation grant recipient. She has been also a juror for the Slamdance Film Festival. Emily spent 10 years developing her practice while living in Trinidad and Tobago, where she also worked as a creative director for the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, spearheading the Caribbean Film Database and Caribbean Film Mart. Emily's debut narrative film, Moving Parts, premiered at the Denver Film Festival and is available via the film's distributor, IndiePix, on Amazon. Emily's video installations have been exhibited at PG Contemporary in Houston, the Air Gallery in Brooklyn, and the Festival International Signe de Nuit in France. Her short films have played a number of Caribbean and African diasporic film festivals, as well as at Clermont-Ferrand and MIP TV markets. And most recently, she had a big show in Denver, projecting onto walls. I missed it, but I heard it was magnificent. Don Yanacito has been programming the First Person Cinema Visiting Artist Series since he was an undergraduate here at CU in the late 60s. He has been a staff member and assistant to every director and chair since the inception of this department in the 1970s, a mentor and an example to literally thousands of students. He's been teaching our beginning filmmaking classes since the 1980s. Don was most recently awarded the title of Senior Instructor Emeritus by the Faculty of Cinema Studies and the Dean of Arts and Sciences. I'd also like to extend our acknowledgement and welcome to the adjunct faculty, Jay Gluckstern, Victor Gendras, Chris Pierce, Sarah Biagini, Laura Conway, Andy Buste, Clark Farmer, and also to our academic advisors, Greer McCune, Jessica Barron, Jay Gutierrez, and Sarah Matsuda, who make sure that you're really ready already by the time you get here today. Of course, we couldn't do anything around here without our staff, especially our program manager and executive assistant, Rhonda McEwen, and our tech team leader, Jason Phelps, who is helping us make things run smoothly today. So again, welcome to the faculty who are with us, and the other faculty all send their regrets for their inability to be here today, but they send their greetings, their congratulations, and their hard handshakes. So, and now we're going to transition to the next part of our program. Um, I am. We have surprised. We have a surprise prepared in the form of a very special guest. Um, and so, dear people, allow me to introduce distinguished CU alumnus and the president of Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, our friend, Mr. Sean Bailey. Sean.
Hello, Ernesto. Lovely to see you, and congrats to all of you out there on this well-deserved and amazing accomplishment and achievement. It's a pleasure to be with you here today virtually. I wish we were all together in person, but thank you so much for having me, Ernesto.
And I can't thank you enough for your generosity and for stretching out your hand to us in friendship. And I wanted first to start by asking if you would give us a brief history of your trajectory from CU Boulder to the big corner office in Burbank at Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures.
Thank you, Ernesto. I will try to be brief and also perhaps try to highlight a moment or two for these wonderful graduates. I left CU knowing I wanted to be in the entertainment business, but I didn't know specifically what that meant. I didn't know anyone in the business, which I think is relevant. And I didn't really know what the respective jobs were. I knew I was interested in storytelling. I love music. I love film. So I came out to LA and I got the first job I could, which was at a product placement company, which has become something of a more sophisticated business now. But at the time was, we would try to put consumer products in shows. So you try to get Diet Coke into George Costanza's fridge on Seinfeld. But what I would do is when I would go to those sets to drop off the Diet Cokes or the fruit juice or whatever it may be, I would wait around. I would stay and watch. And I looked around, and over time I learned that was an assistant director, that was a director of photography, that was a unit production manager. And then I remember, and I say this half jokingly, I had a small epiphany where I said, who is that person sitting in the chair doing nothing? And somebody said, well, that's the producer. And I thought, okay, well, maybe that's a job that I could do. I don't really have any of these other skill sets. But I also recognized that to be a producer, if you made something, you were a producer. There was nothing holding me back from doing it. So I went out and tried to find some other young people that I thought were inspiring and creative. I raised a little bit of money and I made a half-hour show. And I did every job on that show with my partner. We did all the contracts, we booked the space, we rented the cameras, we made the coffee, and we made this half-hour show. And fortunately, one thing led to another, and then Disney asked us to start making some shows. More reality type shows for them, but I really wanted to continue learning and get onto a bigger and bigger stage. And I had a lot of free time there. So I was young. I didn't need a lot of money to survive. And I wanted to try writing and finding other young people who I thought had compelling ideas. And so I started writing screenplays. I got as many as I could get my hands on and I read them. And I started trying to write my first screenplays, and I found other people who were sort of doing the same thing. I got very fortunate. A couple of those people were very, very talented and started to get a few things going. I will say, and I think this is important for the story, there were a couple years for me real hardship. Living on my credit cards, not having any money in my bank account, living off tuna sandwiches. But we kept going. And I failed a lot. My first script was not good. I tried things and thought I had projects that were viable that I couldn't get in the door. Ultimately, though, right when I was going to have to consider maybe going to do something else, my first script was bought by a division of 20th Century Fox and made into a small film called Best Laid Plans, starring Reese Witherspoon. And from that, got a little momentum. And around 1999, was working with two guys who had just sort of started to make it on their own, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And we were given the opportunity to sort of start a company together. And I bring this up because the internet had emerged, and we thought there were some really interesting things to try in new forms of storytelling. And so we started a company with another fellow named Chris Moore and started trying to do things cross-platform, mixed media, started to raise some money and started to try to do projects there. And had some successes and had some failures. I bring that up because that wasn't part of my career plan. I thought once I was sort of in this movie producing lane, that would be what I would do. But this kind of interesting opportunity happened because something interesting happened in the world, and I went through that open door. And I'm very glad I did. It was a great chapter for me and very fulfilling. Ultimately, we kept making things, and we started to develop a fairly close relationship with the Walt Disney Company. They own ABC, and we were making things for ABC. And through their movie studios, we were making movies for them as well. And I was very fortunate in that they let me work on bigger and bigger things. And I was really content and fulfilled as a writer and producer. And then in 2009, I received a phone call from the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, a man named Bob Iger, who asked if I might want to come and head up production at the studio. And I met with him several times. He's a very compelling guy, as you might imagine, and ultimately decided to take that job in 2010. And what I would say is, again, that wasn't part of my plan. I was curious. I'd gotten to know Bob over the years. And an opportunity came, and I considered it, and I changed the path that I thought I would be on. And that's been another this time, I've been there since 2010, been an incredibly fulfilling chapter of my life and career. So that's where I still am today. But I just sort of want to say that, we going out and making things and working with people you find as wonderful collaborators and being open to change in the industry, change in technologies, and opportunities that may not be exactly what you expect have sort of been big takeaways of mine over the course of the past 30 years.
Right. Hard work, serendipity, and a little bit of luck can go a long way. And that opportunity is open to everyone. That's why your story is so compelling to us. And I'm reading in the chat, the students hearing your words and saying, yes, that could be me. I wanted to ask you after the experience of 2020, what do you think that 2020 has taught us about the entertainment industries, about our relationship to films, to television, to the arts of the moving image, that may be a good thing to know?
Well, thank you, Ernesto. I think it showed an acceleration of the way that we access stories is changing. Right, we look at it on a variety of screens now. It comes in many different forms, and we can get to it a variety of different ways. But I think something that's incredibly powerful, and you mentioned it earlier, your emotional support movies, the power, even in a time and in an era when we were separated physically, the power of a great story to bring us together and to help us understand something about ourselves, something about humanity, something about the world, was really on full display. I think about, how I, like many, became addicted to Queen's Gambit, and I really loved that and waited on pins and needles to go through that. And then I watched it again with my daughter, and then we started playing chess. I think about, we were very fortunate at Disney in that Lin-Manuel Miranda and Tommy Kail and his collaborators entrusted us with Hamilton. And we originally had planned to release that theatrically this year in 2021. And in the middle of the pandemic, we talked with Lynn and Tommy and Jeffrey, and we said, wouldn't this be a wonderful thing to put out into the world at this time? And so we put it out much earlier than we expected, and not in a way we expected. We put it on our streaming platform, Disney Plus, on July 4th. And what we saw from people in New York singing the songs on their balconies, even though they couldn't be together, or people projecting it on the walls of apartment buildings, exterior walls, so that a whole building could watch. It was really wonderful. Yeah. So I think that what we've learned is that storytelling is a critical function of us understanding who we are and the times we're going through, and reminding us at its very best of how much more we are alike than different, and how much we share rather than how much we are, opposite.
Yeah, very much so. And Hamilton brings out the best in all of us in many ways. Um, and so you're talking to a group of students today who are graduating from this Department of Cinema Studies and Moving Image Arts. What do you think the future holds? And what advice would you have for this group of image makers, critics, creative minds?
I think it's a very exciting time. I'm very excited for you, and I'm excited for the industry, that all of you are emerging into this industry. I think that it used to be that the tools of production were very difficult to get to. They were very expensive. You needed a really big camera that film rolled through and multiple people to operate it. You needed a way to process the film. And it used to be that even if you were able to get that far, the means of distribution were controlled by a few very powerful companies. So to get whatever you wanted to make and to get it exposed, you had to somehow break the walls of those companies to get them to anybody to look at what you made. And all of that has changed. We all now have movie making or creative tools in our pocket with our devices all the time. And we have a distribution mechanism in the internet that's open and available to anyone. So for me, there were some really significant barriers to trying to get my ideas, things made, things seen. But now the quality of what you can do, the creativity of what you can do, I think is thrilling, that the production tools and distribution are available to you. I also think the creative form is changing. I look at some of the limited series on streamers, or I think of, when I look at Game of Thrones, or even one of the things most recently my colleagues at Marvel put up, of Falcon and Winter Soldier. These aren't TV shows as we've traditionally known them, and they aren't exactly movies. They're produced like movies, but they come in installments. And it used to be that you each have to conform to a 22 or 44-minute format with commercial breaks.
Right.
Now, the first episode can be 12 minutes, the next one can be 40, the next one can be an hour 15. It's much more like the construction of a great novel. And you can make it. So I think these forms are getting very exciting. I also think what's happening mixed platform-wise is thrilling. We see Travis Scott putting on a concert in the world in game of Fortnite. And it becomes a massive event. So I think we're seeing the merging of these forms and of these creatives and the opportunity that's available in a really, really exciting and thrilling way.
Yes, and the example of the expansive possibilities. We're not married to certain formats anymore. And you made the comparison to a great novel. The Queen's Gambit is based on a great novel, beautiful novel by Walter Tevis that I got into after I watched the show. And I went back and watched the show again. So much richer. And finally, I'm going to ask you to give us a final message in a moment. But before that, what do you think the entertainment industries are going to look like as we enter a new and very promising era of diversity, equity, and inclusion? We have a very diverse group of students leaving here today, and they are the face of the future. So what do you think of that?
I think this is tremendously exciting. The entertainment industry has a lot of work to do on diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I believe we are starting to make significant moves. There's a long way to go, but I think the business is starting to make significant moves in front of and behind the camera. I serve on the Sundance Institute Board of Directors, and I want to share a few things about the power of this. I was at one of our board meetings in Sundance at the Rexroom Resort outside of Park City, and the woman who runs the labs, Michelle Satter, had brought several people to present just a little bit of what they were working on at the board, and one of them was a young man named Ryan Coogler. He was from Oakland, and he was working on his first film at the time, a movie called Fruitvale Station, which became known as Fruitvale.
Right.
And Ryan was editing the movie at the time. He showed us a scene, and it was a very compelling scene. And I went up to him after, and I went and sat with him after that board meeting, and we talked for hours. And Ryan invited me back when his movie was accepted to the Sundance Film Festival and premiered. And it was a very significant evening for Ryan and for all of us. I was sitting directly behind the family of Oscar Grant, the young man who had been killed at the BART station in the Bay Area in the film. The first time they were seeing the movie, and the film was as powerful and as gripping and as emotional as it was. And Ryan was sort of launched as a storyteller. Ryan then went on to make Creed, and then he came to Disney to work with Marvel to make Black Panther. Right. And it was sort of entertainment. The conventional wisdom was that movies with Black protagonists might struggle in China and in some other markets. And Ryan made such an incredible film with Black Panther, and the movie performed so magnificently all around the world, including in China, that I really believe, and all the kids all over the world who saw someone like them up there as a superhero, I do believe Ryan moved the needle in terms of culture significantly. And I think back to those beginnings of that small but wonderful film he made to where he's gone and where he's going. And I think there are so many other stories like Ryan's that are happening, have to come. I think it's thrilling. I think that it's now been proven that diversity is better for the business. It's a better business result. It's a better societal result. It's better for kids and all of us to see the world as it actually looks up there on screen. And I think it's going to result in wonderful new stories to tell. There's an artist that I love. His name is he's an actor and he's a rapper, and he's on stage. His name is Utkarsh Ambudkar, and he grew up in Maryland, but he's of Indian descent. And Utkarsh is in the group Freestyle Love Supreme. And Utkarsh, I met with Utkarsh, and he just sort of said, "What story do you want to tell?" And Utkarsh told me and my colleagues a wonderful story about a young boy struggling who becomes the world's greatest MC, and we're developing that movie and hoping to make it. But the ability to just say, "What story do you have to tell, and what will it be?" Is, I think, thrilling. I think we're going to see all wonderful new stories on the screen and be taken to new worlds and new experiences that I think is going to be really significant, really exciting, and really important for the industry and for the world.
And it is good business, as you know better than many of us. I want to thank you publicly for not pulling my ear for using "When You Wish Upon a Star" without permission as opening music. And also, if you have any final message for our students.
Well, thank you for that, and thanks again for having me. I want to congratulate you deeply on this moment. I think a lot of us talk about, and what you've been through in this past year. There's a lot of conversation about what we've all missed in this past year, but I also want to commend you for what you have achieved. Your resiliency, your adaptability, your flexibility it's remarkable, and it's a remarkable accomplishment, and it is going to serve you very, very well. You have been through something that my generation at that age did not have to experience, and you've learned how to adapt. And one thing I can say is, in the field I'm in, adaptability is essential and important, and you have it, and you've proven it. So I want to congratulate you on that. The opportunity of the future, I think, is massive. And Ernesto brought up many of the points and why I believe that is so. And I think that creativity and artists are essential to that future. Storytelling as an art form, storytelling and art, they're how we make sense of our lives, and we need it as human beings. And lastly, I was thinking about what my parting words might be, and I wanted to bring up a story I heard recently, because I think you're going to teach us a lot. I think that's the other thing. As you emerge, we're going to learn a lot from you. And the senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker, recently told a story that I wanted to share because it reminded me of this, which is when Cory was a student at Stanford, he had gone to see an inspirational speaker. And the inspirational speaker at one point asked people to raise their hands, and they raised it. And he said, "I think you can raise your hands 3 inches higher." And they all did. So Cory then later went to speak to a group of young kids in East Palo Alto. And he was going to take the move, and he said, "Okay, please raise your hands," and now raise them 3 inches higher. And there was one boy in the back who was folding his arms and not raising his hands. And I think Corey said the boy's name was Robert. And he noticed that Robert was a little shorter than some of the other kids. And he thought, well, maybe Robert's not raising his hand because he can't get it as high. And so he said, come on, Robert, raise your hand. And Robert just did this a little more. And then Corey said, come on, Robert. At that point, Robert got up out of his seat and sprinted towards the back of the gymnasium. Now, Corey was a tight end at Stanford. So Corey ran him down in about 5 steps and picked him up. And he said, come on, Robert, you know what? And Robert started screaming, put me down, put me down, put me down. And Corey said, Robert, it's okay. Just, it's okay. You can raise your hand. And Robert said, I know that. He said, but I know I can raise my hand. He said, but I know a way to the roof. I can get my hand higher than anybody. And so I thought about that story because an inspirational speaker had taught Corey to raise his hand 3 inches higher. And a young boy had told him, no, we can get all the way to the roof. And so I think that you all, I encourage you, be bold, be brave, go for the roof. And, I can't wait to see what you're all going to get up to. So thanks again and congratulations.
Sean, you are a true friend of this department. The chat is going nuts with excited comments from the students. And I thank you deeply for your generosity to us. And I surely hope that we get to see you in person sooner than later.
I look forward to it.
So I'll look forward to that as well. As I said, I have one of these for you, and a CU pin that I hope to put on your lapel one day myself. So thank you so much for joining us and for being such a gentleman.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
You're very welcome. And thank you, people, for being patient and for being so welcoming to our special guest. We will proceed to the more ceremonial part of today's activities, for which I would like to call on stage my friend and my colleague and yet friend, Professor Ginny Liotta, who is going to introduce our MFA candidate today.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm going to be introducing our single MFA who is graduating with all of you wonderful BFAs and BAs, and that would be Emily Van Loan. For Emily's thesis film, her installation, which was at the CU Art Museum, and written manuscript, she created a tactile, intimate, personal film that is actually the embodiment of a healing ritual, personal healing ritual, but also really something that we can all relate to, I think, this year. We all could use a little bit of healing right about now. Emily, in her paper, coins a term for the way that she practices filmmaking. She calls it intimate tactility. And I'm just going to read this quote from her paper for a moment. She says, I've coined the term intimate tactility to describe the way in which I work. Intimate tactility is a phrase that has been used to describe artwork that is engaged with touch in essential ways, but it has yet to be used to define, delineate, and categorize filmmaking in the way that I define it. Intimate tactility refers to filmmaking that exists when 2 things are true. The context of the work is intensely personal, and there's a development of a physical relationship between the filmmaker and the medium that they're working with. In my work, this relationship with the celluloid manifests itself in the hand processing of images and the hand manipulation of the medium. And that is certainly for sure in this beautiful film that she made, The Tender Place Where the World Breaks. Congratulations, Emily. It's been wonderful to have you here for 3 years, and we're going to really miss you and your wonderful films.
We already do. And if Emily was here, if we were here in person, my colleague and yet friend, Professor Liotta, would be putting the degree candidate with the Master of Fine Arts hood, whatever we call it. Thank you, Professor Liotta. And the chat again is going nuts as well with congratulations to Emily Van Loan. We will now proceed to acknowledge the degree candidates who are earning Latin honors today, for which I will step in first to acknowledge our student and honors recipient, Anastasia Matthews Kiloana. Good to see you again. I was Ms. Matthews' thesis supervisor, and I wrote a thesis entitled Boundaries of the Self, Abjection, and Identity in Horror Cinema. What Anna did with this thesis was nothing short of extraordinary, taking as her theoretical basis the essay by Julia Kristeva on abjection, which is like high theory, hard theory, and getting us through a number of movies that involve body transformations, surgical reconstruction, surgical transplantation, and complete construction of a human being, using as examples movies like The Man Who Laughs, Circus of Horrors, The Hands of Orlac, Eyes Without a Face, Frankenstein, and Bride of Frankenstein. And essentially, Anna helped us unpack how abjection and the abject relate not just to our fear of death, but also to the problem of identity. In short, am I myself if these hands were transplanted? Am I myself if I have been built from rejected, body parts? Am I myself if, part of my body has been reconstructed surgically? For this, the examining committee, considered that Anna had done an extraordinarily engaging theoretical presentation, taking a very complex issue and taking it very, very seriously, and actually making a contribution, which is the sign of a great thesis. And for this, the committee consisted of Professor Barlow, Professor Craven from French and Italian, Professor Negri, and myself, unanimously voted to award Anastasia Matthews the honor of summa cum laude, the highest academic honor that we are allowed to offer. So, Anastasia, thank you again for your contribution, for letting us be part of this journey, and also I'm happy to say that you're going to stick around for another year and pursue with us the Master of Arts option that is open to critical studies students. So if there's anything you want to say, very briefly.
Just a huge thank you to you, my committee, and the entire department, staff, and faculty for everything. I've had a really great 4 years, and I'm so excited to work with everybody again in the fall. So thank you to everybody.
You're very welcome, Anna, again. And now I'm going to invite Anna Matthews, recipient of the Bachelor of Arts degree, summa cum laude. I will now invite my colleague and yet friend, Professor Erin Espely, to introduce our other honors.
Thank you so much, Ernesto. Yes, it is my great honor to present to you today magna cum laude Xie Ding, who has actually written 2 honors theses, and this may be a first for our department. Certainly is unusual and outstanding in any time, but this year especially. Xie, for the Cinema Studies and Moving Image Arts, wrote a thesis entitled Overexposure to Disney Princess Animated Films. I don't know if Sean Bailey is still on the line, but highly relevant. Overexposure to Disney princess animated films, disfigured perception of gender and love in adolescence. Shay's committee consisted of myself, Melinda Barlow, and Professor Christian Hammonds from the Department of Anthropology and the Department of Critical Media Practices. And in this honors thesis, Shay thought about gender normativity, thinking about traditional patriarchal values, and the ways in which that really shapes children's ideas and beliefs. So expanding even beyond media theory, but to really think about exactly how forms, ideas can shape the way that people move into adulthood and express themselves, and going beyond a kind of typical heroine of prototypical damsel in distress to one of more empowerment, and the ways in which Disney has changed their modeling around this. So Shay not only looked at Cinderella from decades past, but to more recent films like Mulan and others. So congratulations to Shay. I want to also just reference her eBio, her evolutionary biology thesis, which was entitled Nest Insulative Capacity Varies Between Chickadee Species, but Not Along an Elevation Gradient. So it's an incredible feat that Shay was able to graduate with magna cum laude in both eBio and cinema studies. So it's tremendous pleasure to introduce Shay. I don't know if she is on or able to say anything, but thank you to Shay and congratulations.
And thank you, Professor Espily, and congratulations to Shay Jing, who receives not one, but two undergraduate degrees with the distinction of magna cum laude. That is an extraordinary accomplishment by any way you look at it. So thank you both for letting us work with you. We're very proud of your accomplishment. I will continue to reintroduce my colleague and friend, Professor Erin Espily, who has a very lovely commencement address and a beautiful picture show for us. Take it away.
Great. Thank you so much. Let us commence, whispered the guide. Commence the commencement, which is to say begin the beginning, or end the ending, to make way for the beginning, which has already begun. Or, as Samuel Beckett says, the end is in the beginning, and yet we go on. We begin again. But how exactly do we begin? Let's begin with the sunrise, not Murnau's, some bitter, some sweet, but let's not Linklater's, Ethan Hawke, or Julie Delpy's, but ours here in Boulder, our everyday revolution, that move from dark to light, the timed act out of our control, the time when we awake, arise, only to ask ourselves why. What did you get me out of bed for? That's what Thomas Mitchell asks in Frank Capra's 1939 film, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and Jean Arthur replies, shh, sit tight. The show is about to commence. The show, the day, today, your life, your adventure is about to commence, to reveal itself, unfold, unfurl like a long dark cloak, a gown, like a path, a journey, a script, a story, a river, a reel of film, a love or a passion. You only have to wait, to sit tight, to watch. The show is about to commence. But let's pause, because you guys are all researchers, filmmakers, writers, cinematographers, editors. All of you are critical thinkers and analysts, and you want to question the ontology. What is happening before my eyes, and why is it happening? You want to create and control and be a part of the action, maybe more than your average viewer. You want to jump off, kick off, initiate, undertake, start the ball rolling, open the door, actualize, embark on, set up, set in motion, enter into, activate, inaugurate, ignite, launch, commence primary ignition, commence evasive action. Deep space flight will commence in T-minus 20 seconds. Champagne leader, champagne section, commence dive now. So those are from Lucas's Star Wars, Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, David Fincher's Alien 3, Guy Hamilton's Goldfinger, and they are all part of a lexicon swirling around control and being on the offensive in flights and fights and battles and missions and wars. But what about for the pacifists among us who, sadly, that is a reality we all have to face? because the struggles, those defining moments of hardship, cannot simply be observed. They often demand action. As the documentarian Ken Burns said, you will come to realize that you are less defined by the good things that happen to you, your moments of happiness and apparent control, than you are by those misfortunes and unexpected challenges that in fact shape you more definitively and help to solidify your true character. The conversation that comes out of tragedy and injustice needs to be encouraged, emphasis on courage, and it is through those conversations that we can make progress. End quote. As we all know, this year has been a year of misfortune, of unexpected challenges and injustices, and a year that required courage. Let us commence, whispered the guide, stuttering with joy. So what about joy and about love and passions? Can we hopefully let those drive us too? Let us continue, whispered the guide, and then struck her wand upon the empty air times 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now let's take a step back, a half step back to 8.5, Fellini's 8.5, to quote the writer, who says, forgive men for quoting all the time. But quoting and citing is what you came here to learn, to know, to understand what has been said before, so you can say something in these crucial conversations, to enter into the larger dialogues with characters and authors and filmmakers and guides from the past and those yet to come. Let us commence, whispered the guide. Undo this tangled thread, a spider's skein, and wind it to a clue. Steven Spielberg calls for film studies students like yourselves to look, to never lose eye contact, even if it's painful, even if it's uncomfortable. Or, as Donna Haraway puts it, you must stay with the trouble. And I would say, watch for spider silk along the way, strong as steel, yet nearly invisible. And you know that as the end nears, the next beginning begins, starts to beckon, and the twilight can be hurried, but it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be missed. As in Richard Linklater's film Before Sunset, the line I'd point to is, most people look for the goal and ignore the process, but the reality of it is that the true work of improving things is in the little achievements of the day. So let me urge you to add to the buildup of quotes, of speeches, of scripts, of images, of scenes, to turn the clock and start afresh, to arise every day to create your own landscape. And as the French director Agnes Varda said, if we opened people up, we'd find landscapes. She also said that what she loves about her favorite landscape, a beach, is the, quote, pleasure of watching the beach, which means watching the sky and the sea. And if you go at a different time, it can be different light and weather. It's so pure that it's like the beginning of the world. Let us commence, whispered the guide, stuttering with joy even now. He took his dark blue cloak and bound it round Endymion, then struck his wand against the empty air times 9. What more is there to do, young folk, is thine. But first a little patience. First undo this tangled thread and wind it to a clue. Ah, gentle, 'tis as weak as spider's skein. That's from John Keats. So to end this speech, which is an end held in a beginning, I'll recite the beginning of that poem. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us all, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, in spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and o'er-darkened ways made for our searching. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall. One of your worlds is beginning today. Another world here is ending to allow for that. Yet the landscape, the internal and more eternal one, continues, and it suffers if it isn't examined, if it isn't puzzled over, if it isn't open to various guides, if tides don't turn and moons don't rise and webs aren't rebuilt afresh every morning. So I wish you dreams and health and quiet breathing of beauty. I wish you passion and courage. I wish you the best in beginning, in ending, and beginning every day to come. Congratulations to the class of 2021.
Wow, wonderful. Here. Thank you, Professor Espali. What a lovely message, inspiring, intelligent, artistic. My God, it makes me feel, you make me look like an unmade bed. But meanwhile, we will now move on to, with a million thanks to Professor Espali, to the acknowledgement of degree recipients. This is when we will say your names, flash your face on screen, and celebrate each of you for your individual achievements and for showing us how it's done. For that, I'll invite, I believe Professors Sears and Marslet will be helping us with the introduction of degree graduates, of degree recipients. So take it away, Professor Sears.
Thank you, Ernesto. And I just wanted to make one short comment. Ernesto mentioned finding solace in the cinema and having his comfort movies, and Erin just very eloquently explored how we can think through our experiences through movies as well. I wanted just to commend this graduating class. I had many of you this year, and how everyone was so thoughtful, compassionate, and full of empathy in the classrooms. And I think those are things that we can also learn from cinema and then bring back to cinema. So I wanted just to note the incredible hearts of the students this year. Okay, moving on. We're starting the names of our graduates. Naima Al-Nima, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Brandon Jovan Arnold, Bachelor of Arts. Nicholas Blake Aronson, Bachelor of Arts. Willoughby John Atkinson, Bachelor of Arts. Sophia Baldwin, Bachelor of Fine Arts with distinction. Alan Balfi, Bachelor of Arts. William Edward Bangs, Bachelor of Arts. Haley Nicole Banker, Bachelor of Arts. Blake T. Barrett, Bachelor of Fine Arts with distinction. Grayson Baum, Bachelor of Arts. Leland Birchmore, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Jonathan C. Cameron, Bachelor of Arts. Zachary Robert Kamer, Bachelor of Arts. Megan Lindsay Carter, Bachelor of Arts. Brandon Samuel Castillo, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Andres Castrian, Bachelor of Arts. Ian Andrew Conroy, Bachelor of Arts. Vanessa Joy Cornejo, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Jordan Corridor, Bachelor of Arts. Jacques Laurent Cote, Bachelor of Arts. Kevin Cross, Bachelor of Arts. Claudia Cruz Collin, Bachelor of Arts. William Abbott Curran, Bachelor of Arts. Camilo DeSantis, Bachelor of Arts. Parker Devlin, Bachelor of Arts. Shay Ding, Bachelor of Arts, magna cum laude. Alina Grace Dumbald, Bachelor of Arts. Owen Parnell Feeney, Bachelor of Arts. Brett Allen Ferraro, Bachelor of Arts. Harrison Mitchell Fleeks, Bachelor of Arts. Emma Kate Fletcher, Bachelor of Arts. Albertico Alfonso Galindo, Bachelor of Arts. David Ryan Giorda, Bachelor of Arts. Theodore Coltrane Gordon, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Ryan Albert Green, Bachelor of Arts. Diana L. Groza Gorin, Bachelor of Arts. Hannah Goering, Bachelor of Arts. Destin Randy Hernandez, Bachelor of Fine Arts with distinction. Jolyn Hong, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Madeline Beth Hunkley, Bachelor of Arts. Emma Claire Jacobs, Bachelor of Arts. Samuel Patrick Jacobson, Bachelor of Fine Arts with distinction. Christina Jurado Hilton, Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Fine Arts. Harrison Falk Katz, Bachelor of Arts. Nilani Wailanakawa Ilal Sachiko Chikuyama, Bachelor of Fine Arts with distinction. Ryan Peter Leonard, Bachelor of Fine Arts.
Austin Long, Bachelor of Arts. Leticia Angelique Losi, Bachelor of Arts with distinction. Duncan M. Lowry, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Todd Robert Luther, Bachelor of Arts. Caleb James Dana Lynch, Bachelor of Arts. Tyler Mandel, Bachelor of Arts. Mackenzie Martin, Bachelor of Arts. Anastasia Matthews, Bachelor of Arts with distinction, summa cum laude. Charlie McRoberts, Bachelor of Arts. Ian Robert Merrill, Bachelor of Arts. Andrew Jacob Mildenberger, Bachelor of Arts. Mary Claire Muhlenbach, Bachelor of Arts. Carolyn Murphy, Bachelor of Arts. Luca Nezzi, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Michael O'Brien, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Sean Omechu, Bachelor of Arts. Stephanie Grace Anafranco, Bachelor of Arts. Juan Diego Ortega Wolfsberger, Bachelor of Arts. Cedar Khalil Kent Palmer, Bachelor of Arts. Nicolette Pellerin, Bachelor of Arts with distinction. Sarah Polig, Bachelor of Arts. Coleman James Rice, Bachelor of Arts. Jacob Richardson, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Jack David Richter, Bachelor of Arts. Ian Niala Ripple, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Jared Ritchie, Bachelor of Arts. Hannah Kathleen Robertson, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Diego Romero, Bachelor of Fine Arts. Margaret Relu, Bachelor of Arts. Celia Rose Schwartz, Bachelor of Arts. Samuel Leonard Schweik, Bachelor of Arts. Robert McClure Schumacher IV, Bachelor of Arts. Caitlin Ann St. John, Bachelor of Fine Arts with distinction. Lauren Steele, Bachelor of Arts. Quinn Foy Sterling, Bachelor of Arts. Bryce Taylor, Bachelor of Arts with distinction. Noah Thacker, Bachelor of Arts. Stephen Ty, Bachelor of Arts. Mitchell George Trahan, Bachelor of Arts. Michelle Alora Trujillo, Bachelor of Arts. Emily Van Loan, Master of Fine Arts. Ivan Richard Von Tempsky, Bachelor of Arts with distinction. Emma Catherine Whitmore, Bachelor of Arts. Daniel Connor Wilson, Bachelor of Arts. And Benjamin Lucas Zuckerman, Bachelor of Arts. And there are the hats. Congratulations to you all. Very excited for you, and especially huge congratulations to all of my BFA thesis students whose work I'm getting to screen later this evening and seeing them in person for the first time this semester. So huge congratulations to you all.
Right, remind us, Jeff, tonight at 5:30 in Monsignor Auditorium, limited seating for which you have to sign up. But if you did sign up,
if you did sign up, I'm looking forward to seeing you. If you didn't, all the seats are taken. But for family, friends, cast and crew, Jason and I will be assembling a confidential link that can be shared with anyone you want to, that will be up for 2 weeks after tomorrow. So for those of you that do want to see their wonderful work, it will be available to you.
Yes. Jason, can you show whoever members of the faculty are on so we can all say congratulations together? And if anyone wants to offer a personal individual message, please do it now.
My favorite part of the ceremony is always shaking hands and hugging as the graduates go by. I'm very sad that we don't get to do that part. So really let this be a virtual handshake and a hug. We really are very proud of you.
Very much so. And yes, Kelly?
Just want to say, keep your hearts open, and leaving college, there's a lot of baby steps, and you look back after a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you realize all those steps have added up to someplace new. So keep walking.
Jeannie, did you have something?
I'm excited to see these movies tonight. I will be there in person, and I hope to see you.
Me too. And otherwise, you guys humble us. I want to thank as well the technical team, the faculty. We have seen very rough times, and yet here we are, joyful, celebrating. Of course, I'm going to cry shortly. Meanwhile, we have you to show us the future. It's your turn. Give them hell and be out there It's your turn. Now we look forward to seeing what happens with every single one of you sooner than later. We have a send-off video, I think, with a little music from one of my emotional support groups. So, everyone.
Congratulations.
I left him at a Greyhound station west of Santa Fe. We were 17, but he was sweet and it was true. Still, I did what I had to do, 'cause I just knew. Summer Sunday nights, we'd sink into our seats right as they dimmed out all the lights. A technicolor world made out of music and machine. It called me to be on that screen and live inside each scene.
Without a nickel to my name, hopped a bus, here I came. I could be brave or just insane, we'll have to see.
'Cause maybe in that sleepy town, he'll sit one day, the lights are down, he'll see my face and think how he used to know me.
Behind these veils I'm reaching for the heights and chasing all the lights that shine. Lights that shine, they let you down. It's another day I'll get up off the ground. It's another day the morning rolls around and it's another day of sun. I hear 'em every day, the rhythms in the canyons that'll never fade away. The ballads in the barrooms left by those who came before. They say we gotta want it more, so I bang on every door.
And even when the answer's no, or when my money is running low, the dusty mic and neon glow are all I need.
And someday as I sing the song, a small town kid'll come along. That'll be the thing to push him on and go.